Welcome to the morning after, the second to the last show of the year, the morning after Super Bowl Pod Week 1. We'll get right away into the action here. First of all, take a look at the prize money, what we are currently sitting at right now. Most points in the year, Dr. Dane won $150 and the Badgers won $50 for finishing second. Most high point wins with 3 were tied between the Gargactyls and Dr. Dane, so each get 5 extra. LBM this year won the 5th place game, so they won $50, and the Black Dingos won $25. Gargoyles, Team Price is Right, Dr. Dane, and the Badgers are all won at least $75, so they just got their money back, plus whatever they win now going forward, and we'll cover that next week in terms of what they won. Where things stand right now, it is a big lead for Dr. Dangerous at 106.1. Next up is Team Price is Right with 82, the Badgers at 76.1, and the Gargactyls at 46.6. Probably not going to win, but he did get his first playoff win, so there's that. And then that, as you know, is for the money plus the trophy, which will not be mine now after this year. So looking like Dr. Dangerous, but it is still there to go. So that's their go from 106.1 on no extra home points or points per week added. That's what it is. And so in other words, Team Price is Right has to outscore them by 24.5. Badgers by 30.5. So we'll see from there. If it is a tie, it'll go to bench points between those two. And then if that's still tied, unlikely, but Dr. Dane would win just because he's a higher seed. Also, as you saw there, the Little Big Men did beat the Dingoes 74-36.5 to get to the 5th place. And the Toilet Bowl is between the Colts and the Bruisers. 2-week affair. Colts up 55-41 after week number 1. In case you're wondering, what about the other game? There's 2 other games this week. Those are the big games. That's one everyone really cares about. It'll be between the Horned Dogs and the Cardinals. For 7th place, legendary Jim Shavina, Consolation Memorial Belt. As you can see, it's been a long history in the OK Bowl. Last year, the Bites Badgers won in the 15th OK Bowl, and this Horned Dogs won it in 2019 for the 13th OK Bowl. An award typically dominated by the Gargoyles, who've won it 3 times, the most there. Now we'll get to the Fantasy Honors and the All-Fantasy team. We'll go through this kind of quick. Fantasy Honors, Dave Pujic Award for most transactions in the year was myself, although this year Team Prices came very close to beating me. Closest it's been in a while. But I did hold off on a little bit there. Next up, the Eric Rett Award for Comeback Player of the Year this year went to Miles Sanders, who finishes the 8th best running back. He went from 3.8 points in 2021 to 9.4 points per week this week. Points per week this year, sorry. Turnaround there for him, and who knows, he might be on a different team next year. Maybe he'll actually get some goal line carries in the future. Kurt Warner Award for the best undrafted free agent went to Geno Smith, 6th quarterback on the year at 14.3 points per week. I remember watching the first Monday night game with Dane. He's like, "Ooh, he looks really good." I was thinking, yeah, Geno Smith isn't going to do anything, but he did. He had a great year. Probably be elsewhere next year, but he had a heck of a year. Tom Brady Award for the best late round pick. Late round, kind of a stretch there. 12th round, more middle, but I guess I'll give it to the late round. There was a couple of 12th round guys, so. But Jamal Williams, unbelievably, finishes this running back 6th at 9.7 points per week. He helped save my running backs from being the worst there. As you can see now, Ryan Leaf Award for the bust. Alvin Kamara with the 11th pick at 5.7 points per week, which doesn't seem that bad, except when you think that 25 points in the 1 week, the only week he scored touchdowns in the regular season, scored 3 of them. But that was a bust. Really wish I would have taken Nick Chubb, which I originally was going to do, and I talked myself out of it like the night before. Mistake. On to the All-Fantasy team. This year, Patrick Mahomes was the number 1 quarterback at 19.1 points per game. Last year, it was Tom Brady at 19. So not much difference there. Bites his Badgers, Patrick Mahomes. Josh Jacobs on the Little Big Men at 11.8 points per game was RB1. Jonathan Taylor last year was RB1 at 15 points per game. So as you can see there's the big drop from last year to this year in terms of points per game. A significant drop. Next up, RB2, Derrick Henry at 11.3. Last year, he was RB number 2 at 15.3. Actually, he was number 1 last year. But 15.3. Actually, I had him at number 2 because he didn't play all the games, but he did have more points per week. So another pretty big drop there from Dr. Dangerous as his running back. Next up, the wide receiver 1 from Mike Smallers, Devonta Adams at 10.7 points per game last year, Cooper Kupp at 11.8. In the regular season, running back or receiver number 2, Travis Kelce at 9.8 for myself. Last year, Debo was 9.9 at number 2. And then finally, Justin Jefferson was receiver number 3 last year. This year, again, receiver number 3, but he was better this year at 9.7 points per game. Probably the best receiver in football. Heck of a year from Bites' Badgers for the second straight year. Bites' Badgers had Justin Jefferson. Flex, guy I was thinking of drafting instead of Kamara, Nick Chubb at 10.8 points per game from Dr. Dangerous. Last year, Austin Eckler was the flex at 12. Kicker of the year, the Ray Finkel Award, Tyler Bass from Dr. Dangerous, 8.8 points per game. Last year was Nick Folk at 9.8. And also the defense of the year, New England's defense, Dallas's defense last year was number 1 with 9.3. Somewhat controversial choice coming up as the MVP. The quarterbacks were all kind of clumped together with Josh Allen and Patrick Mahomes and Jalen Hurts, so I didn't know who to pick. So receivers were okay, but kind of down this year. So I actually went with a player on a team who probably meant the most to his team. Probably got him at least 2 or 3 wins where he just went off. So I went with Josh Jacobs this year, the 43rd pick at 11.8 points per game. Last year, Jonathan Taylor won the award with 15, partially because he was the 43rd pick, partially because he won a couple weeks by himself. He struggled early, but down the stretch he was fantastic. So Josh Jacobs is the fantasy MVP on the year. Be back next week to go over the final fantasy pod, Super Bowl pod results. I'll talk to you guys about shooting out that email about the voting on playoffs and how you want to handle that in the future. Carry, whatever you want to vote on. Majority will win. If it's a push, it'll just stay. That's about it. So we have that. We have the toilet bowl, and we have the only ones who aren't playing this week are Little Big Men, Black Dingoes, the Maulers, and the Minotaurs. They have nothing to play for. But there is the OK Bowl, the Toilet Bowl, and the Super Bowl pod. So thank you for tuning in. We'll be back next week with the season finale. Thanks.